Visit the town. You know another guy named Mike. Make sure you check out my main man, Mike King Bears. Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 a.m. on Sports 106.1 on the mic. With Mike is the champion of business talk radio. It's on the everything. On the mic with Mike, ESPN Richmond 106.1. That's where you find us every day, 5 to 7 a.m. Like King Biz Radio. I'm also on the Choices 105.3. We are here out there talking to business owners, people who are making a difference in the community. Up today, we have a lady with a very interesting story, and I hear stories. I got a story, but I ain't got a story like this right here. Moxie LaBouche is here with us. Welcome to the program, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. I am all a Twitter to be here.
Yes, she is all a Twitter to be here. She comes to our good friends, Danielle Fitzhugh over at the Chesterfield Chamber. She's new to the, not new to the area, but expanding her business practices, which is obviously it has to do with voice because she has the voice. Moxie, let us know who you are, what you do.
I am Moxie LaBouche, your go-to provider for lightning-fast corporate voiceovers. That's everything from explainer videos, social media ads, TV and radio commercials, of course, e-learning and training, and even nonfiction audiobooks.
Okay, ma'am. When did you realize you had the voice?
Well, the voice was given to me by my mother, who was in FM radio in the 60s and 70s. So through nature and nurture, all 6 of her daughters can instantly drop into their radio voice. I'm just the only one doing anything with it.
I saw you guys had six girls.
And people will usually say, any boys? I'm like, no, 6 girls was sufficient. Thank you.
I would say 6 girls. I wanted a girl all the time. I have a granddaughter now, and I host a show with twin 9-year-olds. I'm not so sure that I would have been able to handle that pressure.
My father passed away at the age of 52, and I think he probably made it. He was probably on borrowed time.
Exactly.
Raising 6 girls.
It was, I mean, I guess the emotional level is there with 6. It's all across the board.
And we're 2 years apart. So there
was never a break.
There's a lot of years where you had several kids in puberty at the same time.
Okay. Shout out to your dad, man. That man, he should have got an award.
He went through some stuff, yeah.
I bet he did. He earned the stripe, sir. Rest in peace, because you earned it. I can imagine. Okay, so all the girls have the voices, but it's your profession.
Yes.
Okay, you've had some interesting work scenarios. You've been. Well, I'm just going to go down some. You a goat herder farmer.
Yes.
Okay, how does that happen?
Well, I used to raise dairy goats and make goat milk soap and skincare products that I sold at farmers markets and craft shows. And that's how I made my living for about 12 or 13 years. And in the late 70s, early 80s, not to date myself, my folks were trying to do the whole homestead thing, the self-sufficient.
And what area was this located?
That was in Indiana.
Okay.
And so I have fond memories of the kind of goat and chicken and vegetable garden scenario. But that's because I was 4 and had very little work to do. And then I thought, oh, that's what I'll do. I'll raise goats. And yeah, it was a bit more work when you're the adult on the farm. But I did 90% of that by myself and kind of got burned out after a while. Went back to retail because there's always retail. And at the same time I was closing the goat business, I discovered burlesque was a thing.
Okay, can I ask you, how do you go from the goat business to burlesque?
In my spastic squirrel brain, there is no barrier. That's just like, yes, let us also do burlesque. Well, a friend of mine, an amazing graphic artist who I'll be happy to refer people to, a fellow by the name of Steve Warwick, did the posters for one of the local shows. He and I went to school together. We had just reconnected. And he's like, I get free tickets. Do you want to go? Of course.
Of course I want to go. Yes.
And I saw a performer, now retired, named Kiki Von Kitsch. He has a big fuzzy pink Muppety character doing a song to Manamana. And she had googly eye pasties with eyelashes. And then at the end of the song, the front of her fuzzy pink G-string is a mouth. And she puppets it and sings
And
along.
she had you at that point.
And I was looking up the stage saying, this is the best thing I've ever
This is
seen
what I
in my
want to
life.
do.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. I will tell you though, goat farming and burlesque dancing, those two schedules do not work together.
I was wondering about, no, I wasn't wondering because we work with some farmers, shout out to Brunswick Ag and Culture. And I asked him about the hours. He said animals don't care about holidays.
Mm-mm.
Animals don't care about weather. It's not the 4th of July. They don't care.
They don't care about hangovers. They don't care about
They're
food.
nothing. Okay, so at what point did you think that the burlesque world was a little different than than what the lives most people lived.
Well, it's clearly obvious when you're taking your clothes off for fun and profit. It is a little bit different than everybody else's life. I also did what's called nerdlesque. So that's when you dress up as characters from your favorite, shows and books and movies. My very first routine was a mashup of Star Trek, Star Wars, and The Fifth Element. I also produced a number of Game of Thrones burlesque shows, and it was my distinct privilege to receive the official blessing of George R.R. Martin and be invited out to his theater in Santa Fe, New Mexico. We got to play for the man himself.
And as I said off air, I'm not, clearly you may look at me and be shocked that I didn't know anything about that world. I
would never judge.
Said right, we're not judging here. This is, we're open and inclusive, but I didn't know anything. So when you put Star Wars and Star Trek together, I know that one, those typically don't go together.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of contention between the two fan bases.
Yes, and I didn't understand how big the Game of Thrones things that you were talking about. Explain to our listeners how big that is and what you did in that world.
Well, I mean, Game of Thrones itself was, multi-million-dollar property until the showrunners pooched it on season 8 there. But yeah, we actually made 2 national tours of our Game of Thrones burlesque show called Burlesque is Coming. And on one of them, we toured our way out from the mid-Atlantic to Santa Fe, New Mexico to play for Mr. Martin. My husband, who once burlesque restarts here in Richmond, will be performing again under the name Dante the Inferno.
Okay, wait, ma'am, hold on a second. Your husband is a burlesque performer as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Keep it in the family. The family that strips together stays together.
Okay. I got 40 years and I never heard that one in, but that's a good one. So where did you meet your husband?
At a burlesque show, coincidentally. A friend had tickets to the show I was performing in, and she needed someone to go with her. She brought this guy. He sees me up on stage in what I call my Jessica Rabbit wig. So
okay.
Long, curly, red hair, emerald evening gown covered in rhinestones. He meets me outside, t-shirt, wig cap, hair, singing every which direction.
He wondered what happened to the woman.
A bait and switch, yes.
He wondered what happened to the woman from the stage.
Yeah.
Okay. So is he a performer as well?
Yeah, Dante the Inferno. And he actually did a routine as George R.R. Martin in front of George R.R. Martin. And my husband was in weapons systems in the Navy, and he said that was the most nerve-wracking moment of his life.
One of Mike and Moxie here with the story. I mean, this is classic. Alrighty, so the burlesque and the nerdesque. I like that. Yeah. I like nerdesque because shout out to the nerds out there. We don't get our just due. It's much being a nerd is a lot cooler now than it was.
It's been co-opted.
Yes.
Yeah, we got fake nerds now. The stuff we used to get bullied for in high school now is fashion.
I'm going to go out on a soapbox here, and this is my show. I don't think that the kids these days get as much like humiliation as we did back in the day that you had to live through.
Yeah.
Like calling a girl's house and talking to a grandmother or mother, that was terrifying.
My nephews will never have to yell across the house, "I've got it, hang on."
I know.
And knowing that their sibling is actually still listening.
You're listening. We're calling someone's house and having to talk to a parent.
Yeah.
No, it's over.
Just calling a phone that's shared by more than one person.
Yeah.
That's just not a thing anymore.
It's not a thing. So they don't have to go through some of the humiliating things like the dances or the square dance lessons for gym.
Why did we all do that? And we all just act like it's normal.
I don't know, but everybody told us how to do-si-do your partner.
Have you needed that information?
Not once.
Not once.
Not once. I've been to a number of things where it may have been done. And when I saw people do it, I thought it was pretty cool. But the brother wasn't going out there and because I didn't have the skills to start off with. I wasn't the best guy anyway. So it wasn't like I was going to go out there and do something and I wasn't good at it. And I looked crazy even more than trying my best at it. Okay, so, but that's my soapbox thing. Kids need to be, battle tested a little bit more these days instead of sitting there watching and playing Grand Theft Auto like my grandson, who's 5, saying, "What the?" And he stops right at that word because he knows what word goes there. but he better not.
Rosie's not allowed to say.
Which is worse?
I mean,
It's worse that he knows he can't say it, but he knows it.
I had a very conservative aunt who wouldn't let her kids watch movies if there were any swears. And I'm like, why don't you just tell the kids what acceptable behavior is? You know, like I had my 7-year-old niece in the car and I wanted to put on a podcast. And I'm like, oh, well, they do swear sometimes. I'm like, Savannah, you know what words you're not allowed to say. She was like, yeah. I'm like, okay, so if you hear them in the show, just don't repeat them.
Exactly. Like grown-ups do at work, in workplaces. Okay, I got to touch on some other things with you as well. So we talked about the farming. We talked about you being a goat farmer, a goat herder, struck by lightning.
Yeah, just slightly,
Well, you know, I'm not an expert, but I don't know if there's a thing that's, you know, a little bit struck by lightning.
Well, I mean, there's a range. There's everything from a mild tingling sensation to being atomized to a fine red mist. And I'm closer to that first end of the spectrum. It was a balmy late May afternoon. It was evening. I was doing the evening chores. It will always rain the hardest when it's exactly.
And where was this at, ma'am?
It's right down in Chesterfield, actually, the same place.
So I gotta stay at
live now.
Chesterfield.
Yeah,
Okay.
right down in Chesterfield. We actually found a 170-year-old house tucked behind a subdivision. So we're right in the middle of everything, but we have agricultural land. And I was standing at the gate arguing with a goat named Cyanide to come out of the barn.
Okay, let me stop you right there. When you're arguing with someone named Cyanide, there probably isn't something good that's going to come out of it.
She was nice enough. We had a theme every year because we would have a dozen baby goats to name every year. So we'd have a different theme. And one year it was deadly poisons. So I had antimony, curare, strychnine. You got to have fun with it.
You're creative, clearly.
It, you know, and we just called her Cyan for short.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah, so I'm fussing at Cyan, and she's like, "No, turn off the sky water, and we'll negotiate this." When I heard the loudest noise I've ever heard, sounded like it was right above my head. And as I was falling into the mud, I had 3 distinct thoughts in an instant. Stupid electric fence. I haven't plugged that in weeks. I think I've just been struck by lightning. And I may have lost consciousness briefly. I wasn't drenched in the rain, so it probably wasn't very long. Couldn't close the, I'd been standing there with my hand on the wire fence, was how it actually got me. And I couldn't close that hand for about half an hour. And I couldn't do arithmetic in my head for a few weeks. My logic center was kaput. That all thankfully came back online, but I have memory problems to this day.
How long ago was that?
This was 10 years and 1 month.
Okay, so your husband clearly knows he married a different type.
Oh,
And
yes.
it takes a different type to marry a different type.
Yes.
Okay, when you told him that you had been struck by lightning, or what
This
happened?
predates him.
Okay, so when you told him that you had been struck by lightning, what did he say?
Just kind of the same reactions everyone has when they hear the story. Because for me, it's just another workaday anecdote.
No. I've been around for a long time. It's not just another, no, it's not just a normal occurrence. People do not just get struck by lightning. And when
It wasn't even my first house fire, because the lightning had struck the house, lit it on fire, and then dissipated out through the ground to the wire fence.
Okay. On the mic with Mike, we bring you the best and the brightest. We bring you some gems here, ladies, and that's how I roll. We uncover some of the best, and they have stories. And this is one here on the mic with Mike and Moxie. So Moxie, how can people find you and you can help their business? Because ultimately in the end, this craziness is a business show.
Well, you can go to moxielabouche.com. That's MoxieLabouche. It's French, it means the mouth. moxielabouche.com to hear my demo and recent jobs that I've done. Find me on LinkedIn. There's not a lot of Moxies going around. So
I'm going to ask you, is that the real one? Is that?
Of course, that's not my real name.
Okay, that's a stage kind of.
Yeah, that's actually my burlesque name. And I carried it over to my podcast, Your Brain on Facts, your weekly half hour of things you never knew. And people like the name. So I'm like, yeah, I'll just brand
It'll be
around.
Moxie. Okay, what's the thing that the name of the podcast that people know that they didn't know? What's one interesting? Because I'm sure you have an interesting one.
I've made 160 episodes, so I have a lot of interesting ones. For example, Canada has a strategic maple syrup reserve. And one time, a discount Ocean's 11 group of criminals stole millions of dollars worth of maple syrup by siphoning it out of the barrels right in the warehouse. And it wasn't until they were doing inventory and moved the 50-gallon drums that they realized that these guys are empty.
We've been hoodwinked
Yes, guys.
and bamboozled.
Indeed.
Yes. On the mic with Mike. Moxie is here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, she has some stories. So if you need your business to be rebranded to sound good, this lady can help you. Trust me. So she's out there doing good things, interesting stories. She can help your brand. She can help your brand shine. On the mic with Mike, we got to go away and pay some bills. As I always say, the microphone ain't free, and my grandkids need stuff. We'll be back on the other side.
Hi, I'm Tom Children, the credit card guy with Beyond. I believe it should not be confusing or expensive for your business to accept.
It was 7 minutes.
On the mic with Mike back, Mike and Moxie here with us talking voicing, interesting lives and all that. So Moxie, when you hear people's voicemail or corporate, their branding pieces from an audio standpoint, what's the one thing that stands out that's wrong most of the time?
Oh, it is not my place to be casting aspersions.
No, that's what we do here.
Okay, well then, in that case, well, when someone calls your business, because phone calling does still happen, just as with making sure your storefront looks good and your website looks good, you've got to have that good first impression on your phone. And no shade to, Carol from accounting who recorded it for you originally.
Yes.
But, give me a call, let me do it. We call this my NPR voice, and it's ideally suited for things like, for accounts receivable, press 4. Let me fix you up with a really good one that shows people how professional your business is.
Okay, that is something there. How about ones where you have the voice for demanding money? So that's, the accounts payable has to be different than accounts receivable person.
Be better have my money.
You exactly, straight out of Rihanna. So yeah, better have my money today, not tomorrow, next week. Okay, what is how about voicemail? Like, how does that work? What do you think when you hear a person, you get the number you're calling? What does that just say? Laziness to you?
Just talking to somebody about this before I came up here, and people who answer business phone with hello, full stop. Like, it's cool that the number routes to your cell phone. You still have to answer it like it's a business call. Otherwise, I don't know I've reached a business, and you definitely don't sound professional. And the same thing with leaving the system automatic greeting of the computer lady saying you have reached 80.
Can't do that. Can't do that.
Don't do that. You're missing an opportunity for branding.
One of the things about branding is that it sets you apart from everyone else. When everyone else is mediocre, here you are setting yourself apart, that it looks buttoned up.
And it's so much easier to get voiceover than a lot of people think. I've run into some interesting misconceptions recently. One fellow thought that I'd have to bring my equipment to his business to do his VO. I do not know how he got that impression, but no, that's not at all how it works. All I need is the script. And then usually within 24 hours, you've got the finished file back. I'm even kind of branding around the fact that I've been struck by lightning. You'll see lightning is the wallpaper of my website.
I did notice that.
And yeah, so lightning fast voiceovers.
Lightning fast voiceovers. All righty. I guess when you started, what business has really shocked you that has been like really great to you that you've seen, wow, there's an increase from, I guess, demand for voiceovers? Is there one?
Well, in the past year, in the whole COVID year, e-learning has grown and grown and grown, of course, because there is the need for distance learning. And the convenience of that, a lot of that growth is going to stay. That's going to become the new normal. And I really enjoy doing e-learning modules because I'm learning stuff. I do that whole podcast because I love learning. And like this week, I learned about the Office of Foreign Asset Controls that are the ones who administer economic sanctions when they're ordered. I would never have known about that otherwise. So
I would not know that, ma'am. How can people find that that podcast. We gotta figure that one out so people can get informed like that.
Yeah, Your Brain on Facts is available on all podcast apps or yourbrainonfacts.com.
Besides you, is the rest of your sisters creative? Are you guys all creative?
A little bit. I mean, we're mostly like a lot of people busy with lives because most of my sisters have kids and they run their own businesses and whatnot. But yeah, we all have our own little ways in which we're creative. One of my sisters is an amazing sculptor. She does fabulous little miniatures.
Wow. Well, let's talk about the Richmond community with creatives. What do you think?
My people.
Your people,
Like,
you know, it's tough because I wasn't a creative. I think my father kind of squashed it out of me when I was young, but it's something, it's popped back up in me. But my youngest son's creative. It's hard dealing with you guys when regular folks are trying to
You
do.
guys.
Exactly. So he goes from calligraphy, it was everything, calligraphy to doing clothes, to the dance moves, to all kinds of art, to doing a podcast. He just doesn't.
You can't restrain a creative mind,
I know.
man. It's
I,
gonna do what it's
it's
gonna do.
gonna do what it's gonna do. And it's something when we step back and look at that, the world of creatives. It's like you give it props, like, wow, it's pretty cool. But then you think, man, it's kind of tough.
It is hard to earn your living, and you have to watch for that thing where, they say if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Well, conversely, if you turn your love into a business, it's going to become a slog. You risk no longer loving the thing that you originally loved. But I know a lot of people who have been successful in that. For example, here in Richmond, we have Madame Ansa, a world traveled belly dancer, and her husband, Paulo Garbanzo, the only American ever appointed jester of an English castle. And they both, lost their livelihood during COVID because they couldn't get out and perform, but they just found ways to transition and spin things and make it work. And that's what the creatives can do. They can always find a way to make it work.
One of the things that we didn't realize was the parts that creativity and the arts played in our life when we couldn't do what we had done before. We realized that people need people. And we will do whatever it takes to be around. Okay, we got put on timeout for a year and a half. People struggled.
Oh, absolutely.
People struggled, and it's been serious. And people are ready to go back out. And what we don't know now is like how safe it is, but people are going to go anyway because we realize sitting in the house day after day, even the Zoom things and Skype and all those things, people missed human interaction. And the creators played a big part in it because we realized the part that music and art and all those things play. So let folks know one last time how they can find Moxie LaBouche.
You can go to moxielabouche.com. That's MOXIELABOUCHE. I don't usually spell it out loud.com. If you just, Google will find it. And please connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to help you with your voiceover needs.
Can you give me ESPN Richmond? This is you're listening to Mike on the mic with Mike with that voice.
You're listening to On the Mic with Mike, ESPN Richmond.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's how we do it around here. I'd like to thank Moxie for coming. Make sure you check her out. She's hanging out with us over at the Chesterfield Chamber and doing business out there. If you ever need to contact her, hit me up and hit her up. We'll let her know and show her some love out there. Moxie, thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. Could I close with my favorite joke? For
Yes,
listeners?
there we go.
What do you get when you cross a cow and an octopus?
I'm scared to ask. What is it?
A stern rebuke from the ethics committee and an immediate cessation of all funding.
On a mic with Mike. That's what we do. We'll talk to you later.